What is the role of government in enforcing societal norms? Does the state have the legal power to force compliance with its preferred worldview? A religious freedom case pitting the city of Philadelphia against Catholic social services has had its day at the Supreme Court. While the court correctly found for Catholic social services, the details prove that judges and lawyers at all levels, well, they have serious comprehension problems when it comes to reading the Constitution of the United States. So we'll discuss that next, right here at the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Welcome to the Constitution Study. I'm Paul Engel. This is where we read and study the Constitution. We teach the rising generation to be free. I am glad that you could join me. We are now in what I refer to as the silly season of the Supreme Court. June is when they release all of their most involved or most controversial opinions. So I've got a lot of work to do over the next few weeks going through those and then reporting them to you. So I hope you find this useful. I know court cases can be rather dry and boring, but I try to get to the meat of the matter quickly and succinctly for your easy consumption. If you want to find out more, head to the website, constitutionstudy.com. You'll find all of my articles, all of my videos. You can keep up to date with what's going on. And by the way, if you sign up for the newsletter, which I only send out once a month, you can check a box and have me deliver these videos to you directly as soon as they are released. So if you want to avoid, let's just say certain algorithms, go right to the website, sign up for the newsletter, check that box. I will email you these videos as soon as they come out. Now, in addition to all of that, I'm busy right now, which is a good thing. I've got my Knowing Your Rights tour. I'm looking forward to meeting and actually talking and touching people that are interested in the Constitution. So you can find out more at the website, constitutionstudy.com. Just go to /tour. You'll find out more about the tour. You'll find out more about what else is going on. I'll give you a little more information a little later in the video. So right now, let's go back to the case involving Philadelphia and Catholic Social Services. For those of you not familiar with the details of Fulton et al. V. City of Philadelphia, let me quote from the syllabus of the court's opinion. Quote, Philadelphia's foster care system relies on cooperation between the city and private foster care agencies. The city enters standard annual contracts with the agencies to place children with foster families. One of the responsibilities of the agencies is certifying prospective foster families under state statutory criteria. Petitioner, Catholic Social Services, has contracted with the city to provide foster care services for over 50 years, continuing the centuries-old mission of the Catholic Church to serve Philadelphia's needy children. CSS holds a religious belief that marriage is a sacred bond between a man and a woman. Because CSS believes that certification of prospective foster families is an endorsement of their relationships, it will not certify unmarried couples regardless of their sexual orientation or same-sex married couples. But other foster care agencies in Philadelphia will certify same-sex couples, and no same-sex couple has ever sought certification from CSS. The city of Philadelphia contracts with several agencies to place children with foster families. One of these agencies is Catholic Social Services, referred to as CSS for the remainder of the opinion. What should be a surprise to no one is that CSS, being under the Roman Catholic Church, holds a Roman Catholic view of marriage and families. For this reason, CSS will not place children with unmarried or same-sex married couples. The court notes that CSS is not the only foster care agency that the city of Philadelphia contracts with, some of whom will place children with same-sex couples. Quote, against this backdrop, a 2018 newspaper story recounted the Archdiocese of Philadelphia's position that CSS could not consider prospective foster parents in same-sex marriages. Calls for investigations follow, and the city ultimately informed CSS that unless it agreed to certify same-sex couples, the city would no longer refer children to the agency or enter a full foster care contract with it in the future. The city explained that the refusal of CSS to certify same-sex married couples violated both a non-discrimination provision in the agency's contract with the city, as well as the non-discrimination requirements of the citywide Fair Practices Ordinance. Everything was fine until an article came out pointing out that the Archdiocese of Philadelphia refused to let CSS consider same-sex married couples as potential foster parents. Remember, according to the court, no same-sex couple had ever asked CSS to foster a child with them, so no one has ever been refused anything. However, the article and subsequent calls for investigation by whom it is mentioned was sufficient for the city to inform CSS that unless they agreed to place children with same-sex couples, the city would no longer refer children to them. Why did the city of Philadelphia do this? They claimed it violated the non-discrimination provisions of both the contract the city had with CSS and the city's Fair Practices Ordinance. Now, Catholic Social Services and 3 affiliated foster parents sued to keep the city from enforcing its decision not to do business with them anymore, claiming it violated the Free Exercise Clause of the Constitution of the United States. The district court denied CSS's case, and the Third Circuit agreed, claiming both the contractual requirement and the city's ordinance were both neutral and generally applicable. CSS and the foster parents appealed to the Supreme Court, which held, quote, "The refusal of Philadelphia to contract with CSS for the provision of foster care services unless CSS agreed to certify same-sex couples as foster parents violates the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment." Let's start with this question of the First Amendment. This case cannot be a violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. The First Amendment states, quote, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." Congress did not create the Fair Practices Ordinance or the contractual requirements for foster care agencies. The city of Philadelphia did. Therefore, these actions are by the city, not Congress, and therefore do not fall under the restrictions of the First Amendment. They do, however, fall under the Constitution of Pennsylvania. Quote, "All men have a natural and indefeasible right to worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own conscience. No man can of right be compelled to attend, erect, or support any place of worship, or to maintain any ministry against his consent. No human authority can, in any case whatever, control or interfere with the rights of conscience, and no preferences shall ever be given by law to any religious establishments or modes of worship." Since the Constitution of Pennsylvania prohibits interference with the rights of conscience, the laws of the city of Philadelphia cannot compel CSS to violate theirs. Now, what about those who do not wish to support a ministry of the Roman Catholic Church? Or what about the citizens of Philadelphia who do not wish to support ministries that discriminate against religious teachings? Both questions are moot, since no law can give preference to any religious establishment or mode of worship. Since faithful Roman Catholics believe that marriage is between one man and one woman, and that the best place for children to be raised is with a legally married couple, to deny them the opportunity to exercise their religion by the dictates of their own conscience would be to give preference to those religious establishments that do not hold to the same convictions. What about the neutral and generally applicable test? This test comes from an opinion authored by Justice Scalia in the case Employment Division v. Smith, referred to in the opinion simply as Smith. Quote, "Although a state would be prohibiting the free exercise of religion in violation of the clause if it sought to ban the performance or abstinence from physical acts solely because of their religious motivation, the clause does not relieve an individual of the obligation to comply with a law that incidentally forbids or requires the performance of an act that his religious belief requires or forbids if the law is not specifically directed to religious practice and is otherwise constitutional as applied to those who engage in the specified act for non-religious reasons." In the Smith case, which involved the denial of unemployment benefits for the use of peyote during religious ceremonies, Justice Scalia admitted that the state of Oregon was prohibiting the free exercise of the respondent's religion. But the justice said that it was okay because the law was not specifically directed at their religious practices. Hence, the neutral and generally applicable test is unconstitutional because the Constitution says Congress shall make no law, not shall make only neutral and generally applicable laws related to the freedom of religion. Based on the logic of Justice Scalia, both the state and federal governments can abridge your right to freely exercise religion as long as they didn't target only religious practices. A flagrant violation not only of the Constitution of the United States, but of Justice Scalia's oath of office. This is an excellent example of bad behavior indeed. Since courts today inflate their own opinions above the Constitution they've sworn or affirmed to support, we see Justice Scalia's mistake has expanded and grown to the point that some judges believe churches, well, they can be classified as non-essential and shut down in an emergency. Now, in the Fulton v. Philadelphia case, the court found that CSS's freedom of religion was abridged. Quote, The city's actions burden CSS's religious exercise by forcing it to either to curtail its mission or to certify same-sex couples as foster parents in violation of its religious beliefs. Now, the rest of the syllabus goes on to support their opinion with really egregious arguments. Not because the city of Philadelphia violated the Constitution of Pennsylvania's religious freedom clauses, nor because it denied Roman Catholics the equal protection of the law, a violation of the 14th Amendment. No, the only reason Justice Roberts used in the syllabus, and to which all of the other justices agreed in part or in whole, was that the city of Philadelphia's contractual requirements were not generally applicable. How did they find that? Quote, "The non-discrimination requirement of the city's standard foster care contract is not generally applicable. Section 3.21 of the contract requires an agency to provide services defined in the contract to prospective foster parents without regard to their sexual orientation. But Section 3.21 also permits exceptions to this requirement at the sole discretion of the commissioner. This inclusion of a mechanism for entirely discretionary exception renders the non-discrimination provision not generally applicable. Since exceptions to the contract requirements are, according to the court, at the sole discretion of the commissioner, they are not generally applicable." That means all the city of Philadelphia has to do is remove the exception from the language. And the Supreme Court says they can abridge the free exercise of CSS's religious beliefs all they want. As for the city's fair practice ordinance, the court said it did not apply because CSS did not meet the definition of a public accommodation under the law. So it appears Catholic Social Services of Philadelphia lives to foster another day. However, this victory is not based on the law, but the fickle opinions of a handful of judges. Not only has a court told the city of Philadelphia exactly what they need to do in order to compel CSS to consider same-sex couples for fostering or lose their contract, they have pulled the wool over the eyes of the American people. They have claimed they are upholding the rule of law while bringing in yet another Trojan horse full of judges claiming the power to overturn the Constitution based solely on what they think. This may be a victory for Catholic Social Services, but it is a Pyrrhic victory for the American people. I see this all the time. We get an outcome that we like and we ignore the method that we use to get there. The ends justify the means. The fact that Catholic Social Services is once again allowed to vet foster families is enough. The fact that it's done by getting the court to once again decide that they are the Constitution. They decide what it says. They get to rewrite it based on their opinion. This is the Trojan horse that has been destroying the American Republic. And this is just another example. So I'm happy for Catholic Social Services, and I'm happy to know that there is at least somebody in Philadelphia that's trying to place foster children in stable homes based on biblical values. I'm concerned for the nation. The court has once again used the opinion of Justice Scalia to say that government can infringe on your rights as long as they do it in a generally neutral way. We saw this during the COVID scare. We saw this during many other case reviews. It's not good enough to get the end you want if the means destroy the foundation which got you there. If the Catholic Social Services ability to act as a foster care agency is built on the sand of the opinion of a few judges rather than the rock, the concrete foundation of the Constitution, it can be swept away. All it takes is another judge to come up with another opinion. So that's why cases like this are so important. We shouldn't read the headline that says, "Yay, the Catholics won," and walk away. It's not good enough. Our rights, our freedoms, our liberty is on too shaky ground to trust it to the straw hut or even the stick hut that some of us would do, that the courts are giving us. We need to anchor our rights on the brick edifice of the Constitution. Secure, strong, impregnable. Not these chintzy little slapped together fortresses that are crumbling around us. Hey, do me a favor. If you're listening on podcast, go over to Apple Podcasts, give me a rating and review. Help other people find the Constitution study. If you're watching on video, subscribe, like this, share this. Help other people to find there's good information out there about the Constitution. As always, I'm going to say head over to the Constitution Study. That's where you can find most of the information. It's where you can find out what I'm doing. But I also want you to check out constitutionscholars.com. I set that site up specifically to help people like you and me find each other, find issues that we are concerned about, discuss them, debate them, study them, become a constitutional scholar. And you can do so absolutely free. Go to the website, constitutionscholars.com, register for free. It'll always be for free. It's not it's not one of those try and buy later, absolutely free, and join the conversation. Now, there's a store over there if you want to buy some material. That would help. There's also a mentoring program. You can become an apprentice and begin learning not only how to study the Constitution for yourself, but how to teach others. And there is a fee for that because that takes a lot of my time and effort. But even if you just show up and participate in your state's group, see what's going on constitutionally and government-wise in your state, that's a step in the right direction. Who knows? You may find another patriot, another constitutional scholar that you can both befriend and help support each other. That's over there. Last, before we go, I am deep in the weeds getting ready for my Knowing Your Rights tour. That's actually right now, my first dates are mid-August. I am still looking for venues. So please head to constitutionstudy.com/tour. Find out if I'm coming near you. You can find information about the tour, about the events that I'm going to. Find out if I'm going to be near you. If I am near you, please show up. Come up to me, shake my hand, tell me you've watched the videos, whatever. I'd love to get to meet you in person and get to greet you personally. But if I'm not coming near you, well, don't despair. There's a form right at the bottom you can fill out and request that I come to you. It doesn't need to be a big event. One of my events is a group of us meeting in the back of a bakery. If you can put a few people together and you can to sit down and talk, I've got some groups they're inviting their sheriff, they're inviting county leaders, they're inviting state representatives to sit down and talk about the Constitution, to learn a little bit about your rights, and then talk and ask questions and get questions answered. Again, you can find out more at constitutionstudy.com/tour. I would love to meet you. I'm looking to go to all 50 states. I have a lot to go as far as that's concerned. But most of all, if you want to support the Constitution Study, there's a couple things you can do. You can share, right? That's the first thing. It doesn't cost you anything. Take this material, share it with friends and family. Help this word propagate throughout the country. I think if you're finding this valuable, others will find it valuable as well. If you can afford it, if you can support it, go to the Constitution Study. You can support either the tour or the Constitution Study itself. All the money that is donated there goes to keeping the Constitution Study website and radio program up and running. That reminds me, if you want more Constitution Study, I am on America Out Loud 5 days a week, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can get the America Out Loud app, you can go to the website, you can also follow on the podcast, and you can hear me 5 days a week. Now, some of you may think that's a good thing, some of you maybe not so much. But it's just another opportunity to get information about the Constitution and the world around us from a constitutional view, and then share that with others. That's my big ask for the day. Share. So please check all that out. I hope you found this useful. I hope you found it shareable. And I hope you'll be here next time for the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to